Hello, grade 12th. I hope you have all received all my study materials and are all working on it. I know all of you are at home and must be missing school a lot. I know you're not meeting your friends, not your teachers. You're not in good health because your mental health is kind of depleting day by day. But no worries, we are all at the same page and we are going to all fight it over together. So, today, of course, I will be doing the second part and the last part of ecology, that is environmental issues or environmental pollution. The second part I've already completed air pollution last day. Along with it, I've also completed the soil part. So, today we will be doing water pollution to begin with. So, as you know, water is known as the elixir of life. It is because of water that we are living. It is a universal solvent that helps us to helps all solvents solutes to get dissolved in it, and as a result of which we are able to sustain ourselves because of water. So you are also aware of the fact that water bodies are getting degraded day by day, and of course it is anthropogenic human factors that we are misusing our water resources in the several parts of the world. You think about a cow. Where does a cow go? To the pond. To the pond to wash itself. Where do you go if you live in a village to wash your utensils? You go to the river. So this way we are kind of polluting the water bodies near us. So obviously this water body prevention and control of pollution act was passed in 1974 to protect our water resources. As you are all aware that what are the first, we have to know the sources, which you are already aware. I'll just be recapitulating it with you. So the major sources of water pollution, the major pollutants are suspended solid that consist of sand, silt, clay, etc. Then, of course, there are colloidal material that floats, like fecal matter, bacteria, cloth, paper, the fibers. Those are all your colloidal material. And dissolved material, that is your nutrients. You have nitrates, ammonia, phosphate. All these may come from the nearby agricultural fields as agricultural runoffs. Other than this, of course, there are domestic sewage and industrial effluents which contribute a major amount of these water pollutants. Firstly, we all, kind of somehow or the other contribute because we defecate every day. So, a part of this forms the domestic waste. So, 0.1% of the impurities, they are unfit for human use. Solid wastes are relieved every day. It is removed as dissolved salts, as nitrates, phosphates, and other nutrients. And there are other toxic materials along with it. Along with it is organic compounds as well. But presently, domestic wastes are comparatively difficult to remove because all the sewer pipes have domestic wastes in it. So domestic sewage mainly composed of biodegradable organic matter, which can be easily broken down. Of course, you know that any matter that is coming from living sources, organic matter, so it can be easily broken down by living organisms like my bacteria and fungi, and they use organic waste as well. Now we come to a very important concept, that is BOD, biological oxygen demand. For this, we need to refer to the note. So, you all are aware that microbes, if they decompose any organic matter, they take along with them the organic matter and consume the oxygen to break that down. So, this results in a sharp decline in the amount of dissolved oxygen in it. So, especially from the sewage discharge, if a bacteria or a fungi is acting on it, the oxygen will be used up. So, this basically, when it goes to the nearby water bodies, what happens is it causes a lot of mortality in the aquatic organisms. All the aquatic organisms, they are kind of affected. So BOD, of course, I have told you, refers to the amount of oxygen that would be consumed if all the organic matter is 1 liter of water were oxidized by bacteria. So the BOD test, what does it do? It measures the rate of uptake of oxygen by microorganism, how much oxygen a microorganism is using to break down a particular organic matter. So indirectly, BOD is also a measure of the organic matter that is present in the water, that is in a particular water body probably. Obviously, now you understand, the greater the BOD, you have to realize that more is the chances that that water body is polluted, because there are more microbes in it, of course. So basically, here is how it works. So here they have plotted a graph wherein they have kept concentration in the y-axis and direction of the flow where it is going in the x-axis. So this is basically the sewage discharge that is there. So what happens is, the sewage discharge, basically once it starts, slowly the dissolved oxygen in the sewage gets, obviously you see that here the dissolved oxygen, when it is decreasing, the BOD is increasing. Again, when the BOD is decreasing, the dissolved oxygen is increasing. Now here is what they have shown you, a comparison between a polluted river system and a non-polluted river system. So in a polluted river system, what happens? The dissolved oxygen level is very less. So how do we indicate such cases? We see that fish starts getting disappeared and the water starts becoming very very pale and very turbid basically. So basically those are the growth of algal blooms, which we will be discussing. And slowly what happens, we start taking care of it and take measures. So obviously the dissolved oxygen level is increasing. Why? Because the BOD is decreasing. That is why the dissolved oxygen level is of course increasing. So once the dissolved oxygen level has increased, what does it indicate? Obviously it's clean water now, and the aquatic organisms that were there can now come back. So this is how the dissolved oxygen is inversely proportional to BOD. So whenever there is high dissolved oxygen, then BOD will be less, and vice versa. Whenever the dissolved oxygen is more, the BOD of course will be less. Now as I was talking about algal bloom, now we will just come back. So basically, as I was talking about algal bloom generally happens when there is a large amount of organic matter present in the water. Now, if there is a lot of organic matter present in the water, you can very well imagine there will be an excessive growth in the plankton level. Phytoplankton, zooplankton, that will be growing in that particular water body, and as a result of which the free floating algae will start increasing, and that's known as algal bloom. And that's what basically happens when a particular lake starts becoming dead. So basically algal bloom is the growth of algae, and algal bloom is an indicative that the water body quality is decreasing day by day. And if the algae starts growing, first you can understand the roots will clog the oxygen reach to the other aquatic organisms which are staying in the sub-benthic region and the littoral region of the water body. So this causes a deterioration in the water quality, and of course it leads to fish mortality. So one such instance you have already studied, we've already talked once, is called Eichhornia crassips, which is nothing but the water hyacinth. And water hyacinth, Bangla we call it kochuripana. It's very common in the lake. Amader school jete whenever we are going, baadike thakabo kochuripana bhorti beautiful flowers, purple colored flowers of course grow, which is very beautiful during spring, but it is very very unhealthy for the water body, because this Eichhornia means water hyacinth is a very problematic weed. So they were basically introduced in India for their beautiful flowers. As I was telling you, it was very beautiful. You must have also seen when we went to the botanical garden, the lakes beside, it was full of those beautiful pink and violet flowers. That's nothing but Eichhornia water hyacinth. And now, of course, it is causing a lot of block in the levels of the oxygen reaching the aquatic organisms, and a lot of algae grows. and that's why water hyacinth is known as terror of Bengal. Okay, and we will be discussing when we are doing reproduction that water hyacinth grows sexually, so it grows really fast, as a result of which there is a high chance of a water body getting these algal blooms very soon. So next we come to a very important concept, that's biomagnification. From the word itself, biomagnification. In a living organism, that's bio, something gets magnified, becomes bigger in size. Magnification, you know. Now, biomagnification is nothing but the accumulation of waste কোনো জিনিস, say for instance any kind of say mercury or lead, some very active and toxic metal that's very harmful for living organisms, say that's there in the water. ঠিক আছে, so the small fishes will start eating that. First, let's start with the phytoplanktons. Phytoplanktons will start eating that, as a result of which the smaller fishes will start eating it. Then the smaller fishes will be eaten by the bigger fishes. The bigger fishes will be eaten by the bird. And finally, it will come to us. So you see, with every trophic level, there is an increase in the size of the living organism also. So what happens is, the waste that was accumulated in small numbers have now become bigger with the size of the organism. See, phytoplankton was small. Smaller fishes were bigger than the phytoplankton. The smaller fishes, then bigger fishes, so bigger, and then the bird, which is bigger than the fish, and of course human beings with the most complex organisms, and of course we are bigger than birds. So you see, the waste that was starting to generate as a small level, that has now magnified. So this is nothing but bio accumulation, and this includes DDT toxication, and then of course your mercury toxication. So higher concentration of DDT actually causes calcium metabolism in birds, and that's why the eggshells of the bird, which is supposed to be thick, you have eaten poultry eggs, most of you, so you know how the shell is supposed to be. But some of the poultry shells nowadays, it breaks very easily. Why? Because calcium metabolism has been induced, as a result of which the shell has started thinning, and this of course causes the premature breaking down, which causes a decline in the bird population. So we will now quickly see to what is happening. So we were talking about eutrophication, and eutrophication simply means nutrient loading. Now, nutrient loading from where and when? So from where, I would answer from the nearby agricultural field to the nearby water body which is near the agricultural field. So eutrophication is basically the loading of nutrients. Now, if nutrients come into a place, what will happen? It will start clogging the areas, and as a result of which algae will start growing. And you know, once algae starts growing, the dissolved oxygen level will slowly become less, as a result of which the biological oxygen demand of that particular water body will start increasing, as a result of which after some point of time the lake or the water body will be dead. So basically this is all a consequence of the agricultural runoffs that come from the nearby agricultural field, and since this is created by man, this is called cultural eutrophication, because this is contributed by man and accelerated by man, so it's also called accelerated eutrophication. So now we come to wastewater management. Now, what will we do with the wastewater? Now, you know that there is a water crisis all over the world right now, and if we do not conserve water soon, there will be a water tax that will be imposed very soon on us. So basically, wastewater, including sewage, can be treated at this WWTP wastewater treatment plant by combining both natural and artificial method. For an example, they have given you, there's a town in Aracata that is in California. So the native people is in collaboration with the Humboldt University over there, and they are working on a natural water waste treatment water plant. So basically, cleaning takes place at two stages. Firstly, you all know sedimentation will take place, all the heavier particles will settle down, then followed by the filtration part, and then obviously chlorination will take place. Filtration will remove the suspended particles from the water, and chlorination will eventually kill the living organisms in water. So basically, to combat with pollutants like dissolved heavy metals, now what do we do? Then we come to the second part. So the biologists, they have developed a series of 6 connected marshes over 60 hectares of marshland, wherein they have grown plants, algae, fungi, bacteria, and they were seeded with, to which actually have neutralized, absorbed, and assimilated the pollutants in one place. So as the water is flowing through these marshes, it gets purified naturally in those particular small algae, bacteria, and then gets released. Okay, so the marshes also constitute a sanctuary which is highly diverse. It shows a highly diversification, a biodiversity, like fishes, animals, and birds. They all reside there now. And this initiative is known as FOAM, Friends of Arcata Marsh, and they are responsible for the safety of the project, the inhabitants of that particular place. Ecological sanitation is very, very important. If we do not actually sanitize our surroundings, basically, so what will happen is we will get polluted along with our environment. So we must develop a sustainable system of managing all these human excreta. We can do this using dry compost toilets. Now, I don't know how many of you have been to any mountainous region. So you will see there is a wooden structure which is like a toilet, and they have kept a small square type of thing through which you can actually pour in your excreta, and that is connected to a slab which has sand below. So basically, you do not need to use water over there, and there is obviously sand lying over there. You can take that up and clean yourself, sanitize yourself, use a tissue paper for yourself, and this solid waste basically goes to the soil, mixes with the soil, and ultimately contributes to the humification, the humus layer of the soil. So this is a very innovative way in which we can prevent water pollution, as well as we can conserve water, which is our main concern. And these eco-san toilets have now, initially it was generally used in Leh Ladakh area, where it was very less, it had very less water. Now it is also being used, these are called eco-san toilets, and they are used in Sri Lanka and Kerala as well. So here we talk about the the water pollution part. We will be going to another part of this second part of the environmental issues as well. Today, the next topic that we will be touching is solid wastes. Now, solid waste, of course, municipal waste, they form a big part wherein these municipal wastes are generated from our homes, stores, schools, office, hospitals, wherever it is possible. And these are collected by the municipality workers, and they are taken into places where they agglutinate these. Of course, you've heard about Dhapa. That's near bypass, and that is where our solid waste landfills are. So it consists of papers, food waste, plastics, glass, metals, rubber, leather, textile, everything. So what they do is basically burn it. So this process is known as incineration. So incineration is a very easy way, but incineration will obviously has a pro, has a con. Pro is, of course, it reduces the volume of the waste, but the con is, of course, it adds to air pollution. So basically, burning reduces the volume, but if it's not completely burnt, then also it creates a lot of air pollution. So what we have done is, what we can do is build sanitary landfills, wherein we can take out some soil and make holes, big puddles, big depressions in the soil itself. And once we are done, instead of burning these, we can just put the biodegradable wastes inside those fills. Those biodegradable wastes can actually contribute to the humus content of the soil, as the microbes will definitely work on it. And of course, this is not a very fast process, so it will take some time. but we have to deal with it if we want to stop polluting the underground water, the water table. And next we come to the municipal waste after solid waste. So biodegradable waste, recyclable waste, non-biodegradable waste, all these fall under the municipal waste. So biodegradable waste, they can be put into pits as I've already discussed. Now kabadi walas and rack pickers, they do a great job. They pick up the biodegradable waste and the non-biodegradable waste and they separate them for recycling. Now kabadi walas, they recycle paper, they recycle metal scraps, so they use it in their own sweet way. So now we come to polyblend. Polyblend is the best way to combat with the ever increasing problem of accumulating the plastic waste, because plastic is a necessary evil, because we need it also, and it is very very harmful for us. So it is a fine powder. This polyblend is a fine powder of recycled modified plastics which is mixed with the bitumen, of course, polybend and bitumen. These are used rashtaয় pitch korte lage. So they are used for making the roads, for enhance the bitumen's water repellent properties, because bitumen is of course pitcher opore to jol porle it's difficult. So this polyblend actually enhances that property, and of course has helped us to increase our road life, the the longevity of the road, by three factors. Of course, we have increased the longevity of roads by adding these polyblends to the bitumen, and these bitumen can be formed by those non-biodegradable municipal wastes. Hospitals also generate hazardous waste, beginning from disinfectants to used patient materials, other chemicals, and other pathogenic microorganisms. Such wastes definitely need a very careful treatment and disposal. For this we have to use incinerators, but now with the increased COVID-19, our doctors, our nurses, they are all in trouble. Of course, I know they are doing a great job. They are the true superheroes of our nation. They are preventing us and making us safe. They're doing a wonderful job. So basically this COVID-19, of course, if somebody is dying also, the dead bodies of the are not reaching the families, and it's a very sorry state of the situation, the whole situation. So right now we are all in a state of denial. We are all in a bad state, but together we can definitely fight over this. Social distancing is a major thing that we all need to practice right now, and believe you me, we will get out of this very very soon. Till then, let's pay huge amount of respect to all the doctors, to all the medical professionals who are working day and night, and to all the biologists who are making an attempt to make vaccine at this go, because it takes 6 to 7 years for a vaccine to develop. But thinking of the current situation, we are working at 5x speed right now. So we need to give a clap to everyone, all of us that are working, who all are working towards the common goal of relieving this world from this deadly pandemic, Corona. Stay safe and stay good. I will send you the rest of the materials in the next video. Thank you.